a megawatt. So for the average customer, what did that mean? That means you saw your 100. So when we're buying for about $75 a megawatt, that means your electric bill under the old system of the base bill was about $102 plus the 15 for a power cost adjustment. So we were hanging out around 117 per thousand. So that's when gas is $2-3. Gas spiked to $9-10, so that means $118 to $124 a megawatt. So that's where you saw us, the utility, react to it, to where we had the plan to increase the base rate from the 102 to the 108, which was effective October 1, and then plus increasing, as you know, we increased the power cost adjustment to 18, from 15 to 18 to 20 to 25 to 50 to 70. So what does that mean in terms of relief from 8 to hanging out around $7 a megawatt? It means probably for this fiscal year, October 1, starting 9 days ago through into September 30th, that you're probably still going to see the power cost adjustment around $70 per thousand. So if FMPA gets to $6-7 in the spring, that should help us recover those monies quicker, so that maybe by summertime we can see a reduction from 70 to maybe 60, 65. And then if FMPA is estimating that they're going to hang out around $6-7 for the remainder of this year, and then next year hang out around $5, $4, $4.50 for the next couple years. So while those are better numbers, they're not. The FMPA is looking like it'll hang out around $85 a megawatt versus $75 a megawatt. So just a knee-jerk reaction. Don't hold me to this. Rocket science, but it's not basic math either. So it's somewhere in the middle. So if FMPA is going to hang out around $85 a megawatt, my guess is the utility's probably going to be around $40 for the power cost adjustment, plus the 108, so you're going to see the rate settled around $150. So that would be a typical increase now of $30 versus the $80 that we just saw. So it's a lot better, but it's not as good. And it goes all back to just where the nation as a whole goes with gas. I think, and I'm adding on, you told me to be brief, but I can't help it. You gave me the mic. I think the important thing is one, the utility understands where we're at in terms of customers and wanting to have a competitive rate. And Leesburg does. I know everybody brings in different comparisons, and we look at different stuff, and we're not as good as Duke, and we're not as good as Seca. Those aren't factual statements. Everybody addresses this different. In fact, Dan and Jacob's presentation talks about that a little bit as to why everybody's reacted differently. And so, yeah, right now we are cheaper or more expensive than Duke, but our utility has beaten Duke for the last 3 years soundly. So even if Leesburg's behind Duke for the next 3 or 4 months, I think if you cumulatively average it up, we're going to be cheaper. But then wait until January, because each utility, whether it's Seca or Mount Dora or Duke or FPL, everybody's sitting on different cash reserve levels, and everybody has a different reporting board, a different method. So the Dukes of the world, they're going back to Tallahassee and the Public Service Commission. While their rate is cheaper now, believe me, the folks at Duke are counting up their losses, and those are all going to get rolled into the matrix, which goes before the Public Service Commission, and then they're going to figure out a matrix that recovers those funds. And I don't see any way on God's green earth that the Public Service Commission's not going to say, Duke, you can't recollect those fuel costs. And when Florida's 80% natural gas, pretty much for everybody in the mix of generation, every utility has a loss. So the good thing about our municipal utility is we reacted to it quickly. So we saw the initial price spike. So as the market starts to calm down, you'll see us float with that price reduction quicker. So watch those bills in January, February, and March. You're going to see the investor-owned utilities come up, and you're going to see us stay steady. And then as we take advantage, hopefully, of the hedging that we're doing, we'll see another decline. Don't think we're going to get back to normal for a little bit, which is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll be quiet. But it's really important. The nation is it's really going through a trying time on energy policies. And if you go back over the last 20 years, there hasn't been a consistent energy policy where we're at. Back to the Clinton administration, there was the thought that natural gas was good. And so as utilities changed out coal, the resource planning was go gas. And so we saw in the early 2000s a price spike in gas because everybody was going from coal to gas. But then the market rebounded with fracking and different technologies, and supply and demand caught up. And then we lived in a world where gas was good. Then different administrations came, whether we went back to coal. So we've kind of been going coal, gas, nuclear. And so there hasn't been a long-term consistency on how are we going to provide renewable resources and what impact long-term on the environment is. So as administrations change, we get different approaches, and we get the stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And where we're at now is an administration that wants to be very aggressive in terms of emissions and meeting standard reductions. And then now a philosophy 20 years later where natural gas, although it's never been deemed a bad fuel or a non-fossil fuel, it was deemed in the 2000s as a fuel that was abundant with not bad NOx. But now the administration's at a point to where they feel like even though it doesn't have a NOx, it has a higher BTU output, which is bad on greenhouse emissions. So even though it's not NOx, it's still heat, and that's bad for the environment. So there's these battles that are going on, and there hasn't been a consistent policy, and it affects everybody. And Florida, unfortunately, is a natural gas dependent state for our energy, and I don't know if we're the worst hit in the nation, but we're watching this. The utility sensitive to this. Last month, this body passed the lifting of late fees to help folks out. It's not a lot of relief, but it's a statement saying we get it. We put up the new website. Please go to our website, leesburgflorida.gov, and look at Florida, or look at Rate Watch, and where we're very transparent about our energy costs, our power cost adjustment, and our projections, and in comparison. So you'll be able to compare us. It's right there in a big red box. So we're very sensitive to it, and we'll keep an eye on it. And when I did sit in on the filming with Commissioner Roebuck and Jacob Williams today, they had a really good discussion on a really good level that I think everybody can understand and follow. So it'd be very informative. Dr. Anna Marie actually texted me while we were here with the draft of it. So as soon as that's out and ready, we'll put it on Facebook, and we'll put it on and get, really, it's a really informative piece.
Yeah, and believe it or not, it's significantly shorter than what Al just said. You should have seen him squirming in the corner while Jacob and I are talking.
They actually talk, and I kept my mouth shut for the whole time. And add this and add that. And so I did a good job being quiet.
Yeah, you would have included him, Dan, but you didn't have 3 hours.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and one thing that the FMPA is doing a little bit different that I think will help with what I was saying is that they are being more aggressive about on the future gas purchases, and so kind of hedging the cost out there, which costs money, right? Like if you want to lock in future price, you got to pay now. But they have been doing that, so that should give the city a little more. So it should be less guesswork going forward. When we say, hey, prices are going to come down in May to this level, we're not guessing at this point because we've bought 75% of our power basically already. Is roughly how that shakes out. But and then also just want to say with the electric department, so of course the big reason to have a municipal electric is the service we get, and I'll send out to everyone after a hurricane. We had everyone up by the end of the day Thursday, 100%. And when we had everyone up, Duke and Lake County had 30% of their customers up. So the Duke bills will be lower in September, but that's because people didn't have power for 3 or 4 days, which is not a good way to have a low bill. But so kudos to the electric department for getting that done, and they always do a great job with storms, and very appreciate it.
Commissioner Connell.
I will be brief. I have nothing.
Mayor Peterson.
Nothing tonight. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Got it done.